There is someone in your life right now that you would describe as loyal. Maybe it is a friend who has been there through difficult times, a colleague who has always had your back in the room, a partner who has never given you reason to doubt them, someone whose loyalty you would stake something important on if you had to. And you might be right about them. They might be everything you believe them to be. But Machiavelli would tell you that your certainty about their loyalty is not based on what you think it is based on, and that the thing you are actually trusting when you trust their loyalty is something far more reliable and far more honest than loyalty has ever been. He would also tell you that the most dangerous betrayals in human history, the ones that ended kingdoms, collapsed alliances, destroyed men who had built everything carefully over decades, almost never came from enemies. They came from people whose loyalty had never been questioned. People who were loyal right up until the moment they were not. People who were loyal when loyalty was comfortable and abandoned it the instant it became costly. Machiavelli spent his life watching this pattern repeat, in the courts of Florence, in the shifting alliances of Italian city-states, in the behavior of men who swore loyalty with complete sincerity and broke it with equally complete sincerity when the circumstances changed. And what he concluded was not that loyalty is worthless. He concluded something more precise and more useful than that. He concluded that loyalty is a weather vane, not an anchor. It shows you which way the wind is currently blowing. It does not hold anything in place when the storm arrives. What holds things in place when the storm arrives is something different, something that most people never think to look for because they are too busy measuring loyalty. By the end of this, you will know what that something is, and you will never look at the people around you the same way again. Part 1, the problem with loyalty. To understand why loyalty fails, you need to understand what loyalty actually is at its structural level rather than its sentimental one. Loyalty, as most people experience and define it, is an emotional orientation toward another person or cause. It is the feeling of being on someone's side, the inclination to act in their interests, the disinclination to act against them. This emotional orientation is real. When someone feels loyal to you, they genuinely feel it. They are not performing it. They are not lying when they express it. In the moment of expression, loyalty is as authentic as any human emotion can be. The problem is that emotions are not stable structures. They are responsive structures. They respond to circumstances. They respond to cost. They respond to competing interests. They respond to time and change and the slow or sudden shift of what a person needs and fears and values. Machiavelli observed this with clinical precision. He wrote that men will love you when it is convenient and abandon you when it becomes costly, not because they are evil, not because their earlier love was false, but because love and loyalty are feelings, and feelings are governed by circumstances, and circumstances change. He pointed to a specific and devastating pattern that he observed repeatedly in the political world, but that operates with equal precision in every other domain of human relationship. When a person is in a position where their loyalty to you costs them nothing, they will express it freely and genuinely. When the same person reaches a position where their loyalty to you begins to cost them something, reputation, opportunity, safety, comfort, money, their own interests, the loyalty begins to experience pressure. It does not disappear immediately, but it begins to flex. And here is what most people never examine closely enough. The point at which loyalty breaks is not determined by the depth of the feeling. It is determined by the size of the cost relative to the person's capacity and willingness to absorb it. A person who is genuinely deeply loyal to you will absorb more cost before their loyalty breaks than a person who is casually loyal. But both have a threshold. Both have a point at which the cost of loyalty exceeds what they are willing to pay. And when that point is reached, the loyalty does not simply pause. It reconfigures. It finds a narrative that allows the person to act against your interests while still believing themselves to be a good person. This is the most important and least examined part of how loyalty fails. The person who betrays you almost never experiences themselves as betraying you. They have constructed a story by the time the betrayal occurs that reframes their action as necessary, justified, understandable, even as a form of loyalty to a higher principle. Machiavelli would say that this is not hypocrisy. This is the entirely predictable operation of human self-justification under the pressure of conflicting interests. The loyal person who eventually acts against you is not the same person who swore loyalty. They are the same person in different circumstances. And circumstances, not character, determine behavior far more often than anyone is comfortable admitting. This is the problem with loyalty, not that it is fake, but that it is circumstantial, and you cannot build anything permanent on a foundation that changes with the circumstances. Part 2, what Machiavelli trusted instead. If not loyalty, then what? Machiavelli's answer is one of the most misunderstood ideas in all of political philosophy. It has been called cynical, it has been called cold, it has been called the philosophy of a man without heart. It is none of those things. It is the most honest and ultimately the most compassionate framework for understanding human relationships ever written. Machiavelli trusted interest, not loyalty, interest. He argued that a person who is acting in alignment with their own genuine interests is more reliable than a person acting out of loyalty, because interest is stable in a way that emotion is not. A person's fundamental interests, their security, their prosperity, their reputation, their relationships, their sense of who they are and what they are building, these things do not change with the weather. They are the structural conditions of a person's life. And a person will protect their structural conditions with a consistency and reliability that they will never be able to apply to an emotional orientation like loyalty. What this means practically is that the most reliable alliance is not the one where both parties feel loyal to each other. It is the one where both parties need each other, where the relationship serves genuine and significant interests on both sides, where walking away from the relationship would cost both parties something real. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who makes himself necessary to those around him has built a security that sentiment alone can never provide. Because necessity does not require the other person to feel anything in particular about him. It requires only that the arithmetic of their situation makes the relationship worth maintaining. This is not a cold idea, it is a liberating one. Because it means the stability of your relationships does not depend on something as fragile and unverifiable as another person's feelings. It depends on something you can actually observe and influence. The structure of mutual benefit that the relationship rests on. The friend who is loyal because they genuinely like you, and also because your friendship provides them with something real and significant. Connection, opportunity, support, belonging, perspective, is more reliable than the friend who is loyal on sentiment alone. Not because their feeling is fake, but because the feeling is reinforced by a structural reality that does not evaporate when circumstances change. When circumstances change, the feeling might flex, but the structural reality remains and pulls the relationship back to stability. Machiavelli extended this insight into one of his most practically powerful observations. He said, "Look not at what people say about their commitments. Look at what they stand to lose if those commitments are broken. The size of that loss is the real measure of the commitment's reliability, not the sincerity of the expression, the size of the cost of betrayal." Part 3, the 3 categories of people in your life. With this framework in mind, every person in your life can be understood through a lens that is far more useful than the question of how loyal they are. The question is not, are they loyal? The question is, what is the structure of their relationship with me, and what does that structure make reliable? This produces 3 categories that Machiavelli would recognize immediately. Category 1, aligned interest. These are the people whose genuine interests are significantly served by your success, your well-being, and the continuation of the relationship. Their prosperity is connected to yours in some real and substantial way. Their reputation is partly built on their association with you. Their network, their opportunities, their daily quality of life are meaningfully better because you are in it. These people are the most reliable people in your life, not because they are the most loyal in the sentimental sense, but because the structure of their situation makes acting against you genuinely costly. When circumstances change and pressure arrives, their interest in the relationship provides a gravitational pullback toward alignment that sentiment alone cannot provide. You do not need to audit their feelings about you. You need to understand the structure of what your relationship provides them. If that structure is substantial and genuine, the relationship has a foundation that can weather significant storms. Category 2, neutral interest. These are the people whose interests are neither significantly served nor significantly threatened by your situation. They may feel warmly toward you, they may express genuine loyalty, but the structural reality of your relationship does not make them reliable in high-stakes situations. When the cost of loyalty to you rises above a moderate level, these are the people who will find the narrative that allows them to step back. They will not experience themselves as betraying you. They will frame it as protecting themselves or their families or their principles. And they will be partially right. Because the relationship never gave them a strong enough interest in your success to make the cost of loyalty worth absorbing. These people are not bad people. They are people with a neutral structural relationship to you. And treating them as more reliable than their structure supports is how people end up genuinely surprised by betrayals that were structurally inevitable. Category 3, conflicting interest. These are the people whose interests are in genuine competition with yours. In some cases, this competition is visible and acknowledged. In other cases, it is concealed beneath expressions of loyalty and warmth that are entirely genuine at the feeling level and entirely unreliable at the structural level. Machiavelli was merciless about this category. He said that a man who trusts those whose interests conflict with his own, no matter how genuine their expressed loyalty, has already lost something he does not yet know he has lost. The conflicting interest does not require malice to produce harm. It requires only circumstances that make acting against you less costly than acting for you. And those circumstances arrive sooner or later in every relationship where the structural interests are not aligned. The practical application of this three-category framework is not to become paranoid or to treat everyone around you as a potential threat. It is to build the most important relationships in your life on the foundation of genuine aligned interest rather than on the foundation of expressed loyalty alone. If you are building something real, a business, a career, a creative project, a life, surround that project with people whose genuine interests are served by its success. Not because you distrust loyalty, but because aligned interest reinforces loyalty in a way that makes the combination far more stable than either one alone. Part 4. How to read interest rather than loyalty. The practical skill that Machiavelli is pointing toward is the ability to read the interest structure of the relationships around you rather than simply accepting the expressed loyalty at face value. This is not a suspicious skill. It is not the skill of a paranoid person looking for betrayal behind every warm expression. It is the skill of a clear-eyed person who wants to understand the actual foundation of what they are building with the people around them. Here is how to develop it. First, ask what this relationship provides each party, not sentimentally, structurally. What does the other person actually gain from this relationship in terms that would matter to them if the emotional warmth were removed? Security, opportunity, resources, status, access, belonging, skills, network, protection. These are the structural benefits of relationships. Identify them specifically for the most important relationships in your life. If you can identify substantial structural benefits flowing to the other person, you have identified a foundation beneath the sentiment. If the relationship provides the other person with little that matters at the structural level, you are operating on sentiment alone, and sentiment alone is insufficient for anything important. Second, watch what people protect when they are under genuine pressure, not what they say they would do, what they actually do when the cost of a choice becomes real. A person's behavior under genuine pressure is the most honest information available about where their actual interests lie. Loyalty expressed when there is no cost tells you the person is capable of feeling loyalty. Behavior under genuine cost tells you what that loyalty is worth structurally. Third, Machiavelli recommended looking specifically at what people have done in the past when their interests and their expressed commitments came into conflict. Not what they said about those moments, what they did. The pattern of past behavior in those specific situations is the most reliable predictor of future behavior in similar situations. Not because people cannot change, but because the structure of interests that produce the past behavior is usually still present unless something has fundamentally changed the person's situation. Fourth, build your relationships in a way that creates genuine aligned interest rather than simply cultivating loyalty. This means ensuring that the most important people in your life have a real stake in your success. Not manufactured or coerced, real. The colleague who knows that your success creates opportunities for them is more reliably aligned than the colleague who simply likes you. The partner who knows that the relationship is genuinely the best available context for what they need and want from their life is more reliably present than the partner whose loyalty is sentiment alone. This is not manipulation. This is the creation of structural conditions that reinforce rather than compete with the sentiment. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who makes others rich and powerful in his service has bought a reliability that no amount of charm or loyalty cultivation can replicate, because the rich and powerful servant has now built their position on the foundation the prince provided. Undermining the prince means undermining the foundation of their own position. The interest alignment is structural and therefore stable. Part 5, the loyalty trap. There is a specific and common trap that the sentiment of loyalty sets for people who rely on it without examining the structure beneath it. Machiavelli identified it clearly, and it is worth examining in detail because it is the trap that the most genuinely warm and relationship-oriented people fall into most often. The loyalty trap works like this. You have built a relationship on genuine sentiment. The loyalty is real on both sides. You have expressed your loyalty and they have expressed theirs. And there is a depth of feeling in the relationship that is not fabricated. Because of that depth of feeling, you begin to give the relationship privileges that you do not examine structurally. You share information you would not share with someone whose loyalty you were less certain of. You make yourself vulnerable in ways that are only safe if the loyalty is structurally as well as sentimentally reliable. You advocate for this person in rooms they are not in, staking your own reputation on their character and their commitment to you. And then circumstances change. Not dramatically, just enough. A new opportunity arrives that is better served by their distance from you than their alignment with you. A conflict arises where their interest and your interest point in different directions. A moment comes where the cost of loyalty becomes real rather than theoretical. And the loyalty, which was entirely genuine, flexes. Not completely, not immediately, but enough. The damage is not just the betrayal itself. The damage is everything you gave the relationship based on the assumption of structural reliability that was never there. The information shared, the vulnerability extended, the reputation staked. Machiavelli's point is not that you should never be vulnerable in relationships. It is that the level of your vulnerability should correspond to the structural reliability of the relationship rather than just the emotional depth of it. Emotional depth is real and valuable, but it is not the same thing as structural reliability, and treating it as if it were is the loyalty trap. The way out of the trap is not coldness, it is calibration. Understanding that the expression of loyalty tells you about the feeling, and that the structure of interest tells you about the reliability, and scaling your vulnerability to the reliability rather than to the feeling. This allows you to be fully warm in your relationships while being clear-eyed about what each relationship can actually hold. Part 6, applying this to the most important relationships. Let us make this concrete by applying it to the specific relationships where this framework matters most. In professional relationships, the application is most immediately obvious. The colleague who expresses loyalty to you is telling you about their current feeling. The colleague who has built their professional reputation partly on their association with your work, who has been promoted partly on the strength of a project you collaborated on, who has a network that exists partly because of introductions you made, that colleague has a structural interest in your professional success that makes their alignment more reliable than feeling alone could produce. Building professional relationships that create genuine mutual professional benefit is not politics in the cynical sense. It is the creation of structural conditions that make the relationship reliable in the situations that matter most. In friendships, the application requires more nuance but is no less important. The most durable friendships are not simply the ones where the feeling runs deepest. They are the ones where the relationship provides each person with something that genuinely matters to them at a structural level. Friendships that provide genuine belonging, growth, perspective, accountability, and support that is difficult to find elsewhere have a durability that feeling alone cannot sustain. Machiavelli would say the goal is the second, and reaching the second requires building it deliberately rather than hoping that feeling alone will sustain it through everything circumstances will eventually bring. Part 7. What this looks like in practice. Let us be clear about what this framework looks like when it is actually being applied in daily life. Because the risk of a framework like this is that it sounds clean in theory and alien in practice. It does not look like auditing your relationships with a spreadsheet. It does not look like treating everyone around you with suspicious calculation. It does not look like refusing to express loyalty or warmth or genuine affection. It looks like this. It looks like building relationships where you genuinely invest in the other person's success, well-being, and growth. Not as a strategy to create dependency, but as the natural expression of caring about someone. Because when you genuinely invest in another person's success, you are simultaneously building the structural condition that makes the relationship more reliable. The investment of care is both emotionally authentic and structurally sound. It looks like being honest with yourself about what the most important relationships in your life are actually providing each party. Not constantly, not obsessively, but periodically and clearly. Enough to know whether you are building on solid ground or on sentiment alone. It looks like scaling your vulnerability to the structural reliability of the relationship rather than just its emotional temperature. Being fully warm and open with the people whose relationship with you is structurally as well as sentimentally grounded. Being warm but more measured with the people whose relationship with you exists primarily at the sentimental level. And it looks like building your life in a way that makes the people who matter to you genuinely better off for being in it. Not because that makes them your loyal subjects, but because that is what real relationship looks like when you understand the full picture of what makes human connection durable. Machiavelli's insight was never that you should not care about people. It was that caring about people in a way that ignores the structural reality of human motivation is ultimately a form of carelessness, about them and about yourself. Real care includes building relationships on foundations that can hold the weight of real life. The most loyal person you have ever known was loyal because it did not cost them enough to be otherwise. This is not an insult to them. It is the honest description of every loyal person who has ever existed, including you. Machiavelli was not asking you to stop valuing loyalty. He was asking you to stop mistaking loyalty for a foundation when it is actually a weather vane. The foundation is interest, aligned, genuine, structural interest. The kind that gives both parties something real to protect in the relationship. The kind that makes the cost of betrayal higher than the cost of loyalty, regardless of what the circumstances bring. Build that foundation beneath the sentiment of loyalty, and you have something that can survive almost anything. Rely on the sentiment alone, and you have something beautiful and fragile that will hold until it suddenly does not. The people who have never lost anything important to a betrayal they did not see coming are not the people who found more loyal people than everyone else. They are the people who learned to ask the right question. Not are they loyal, but what do we each stand to lose if this relationship fails? That question has an answer you can examine and verify. And an answer you can examine and verify is the only kind of answer worth building your life on. Loyalty is the weather vane. Interest is the anchor. Trust the anchor.